experiences that would have helped their abilities grow. The way someone spends their time, what they choose to learn, the kind of work they are willing to do, and even the thoughts they keep returning to all begin influencing the direction their life slowly moves. Each choice may look small by itself, but over time, those choices build on each other in a powerful way. A person might decide to spend an hour improving a skill, reading something useful, or practicing a craft that could eventually create value for others. That decision may not feel important in the moment because it does not immediately produce a visible reward. But when the same decision is repeated day after day, week after week, and year after year, it slowly builds an ability that did not exist before. Another person may decide to spend that same hour in a different way. They might choose the easiest activity available, something that requires no effort and demands no growth. That decision also seems harmless when it happens once. Yet, when that choice becomes a daily habit, it begins shaping the direction of a life just as strongly as the first example. The important thing to understand is that direction rarely announces itself while it is being formed. A person can spend years making decisions that seem insignificant without realizing those choices are slowly building a path that becomes harder to change as time goes on. Life tends to respond to patterns, and those patterns are created through repeated decisions. Think about the difference between planting a seed and ignoring the chance to plant one. When a seed is placed in the soil, nothing appears to happen right away. The ground looks exactly the same as it did before, and someone passing by might assume that nothing important took place. Yet beneath the surface, a process has quietly started. The same idea applies to the decisions someone makes with their time and effort. When a person chooses to learn something useful, practice discipline, or improve their understanding of the world, the results are not always visible right away. The process develops quietly, just like the seed beneath the soil. Months later, the person who kept planting those small decisions begins to notice something different about their life. Their abilities have grown, their understanding has expanded, and opportunities that once seemed far away begin appearing within reach. Those opportunities were not created in a single moment. They were built through many ordinary choices, repeated over time. Meanwhile, another person who believed daily decisions did not matter may find themselves in a very different position. They might look around and wonder why progress seems to happen for others while their own situation has stayed the same. The answer is often found in the accumulation of choices made quietly over many years. Direction does not need dramatic announcements. It simply requires repetition. When someone repeats useful decisions long enough, those choices begin shaping a path that gradually leads toward progress. When unproductive decisions are repeated long enough, they begin shaping a path that leads toward stagnation instead. This is why the small decisions of each day deserve attention. The hours spent improving a skill may not feel important today, but when repeated for several years, it can completely transform a person's abilities. The decision to think constructively about challenges may not change the day immediately, but over time it shapes how someone responds to life. Daily choices also influence what a person begins expecting from themselves. When someone repeatedly chooses actions that move them forward, they slowly develop the belief that progress is normal and possible. That belief encourages more action, which then produces more progress. On the other hand, when someone repeatedly chooses the easiest path available, they may gradually develop the expectation that effort and improvement are unnecessary. Over time, that belief can quietly limit what they attempt and what they believe they are capable of achieving. The direction of a life is not created by accident. It is created through the small decisions that are repeated often enough to become habits. Those habits guide behavior. Behavior shapes results. And results gradually determine the path a life begins to follow. What makes this idea powerful is the realization that every person has the ability to influence those choices. Each day presents opportunities to decide how time will be used, what kind of thinking will be encouraged, and what actions will be taken. While no one can control every circumstance that appears in life, everyone can influence the decisions they make in response. Over time, those responses become the quiet architects of the future. They build skills, shape character, and influence the kinds of results that begin appearing in a person's life. The difference between progress and regret rarely begins with a single dramatic decision. More often it begins with the ordinary choices that seem small while they are being made. A life moves in the direction of the decisions that are repeated most often. When those decisions support growth, responsibility, and improvement, progress slowly becomes visible. When those decisions avoid effort and delay meaningful action, stagnation slowly appears instead. Understanding this principle gives a person something valuable: awareness. The awareness that today's ordinary decisions are not isolated events, but part of a pattern that slowly shapes tomorrow. Once someone recognizes that truth, the small choices of each day begin to feel far more important. Every hour becomes an opportunity to guide the direction of the path ahead. Every decision becomes a seed that will eventually produce some kind of result. Whether those results lead toward progress or regret depends largely on the direction hidden within the choices repeated each day. One of the most common crossroads a person faces in life appears in a very ordinary way. It rarely arrives with a sign announcing that an important decision is being made, and it often feels so small that people hardly notice it while it's happening. The choice is simply this: whether to pursue comfort in the present moment or to pursue growth that may require effort and temporary discomfort. Comfort has a very convincing voice. It promises relief from effort, a break from responsibility, and the satisfaction of staying within familiar limits. It asks very little from someone in the present, and because of that, it often feels like the most reasonable choice available at the time. There is nothing inherently wrong with comfort. Rest is necessary, and every person needs moments when they can recover their strength and enjoy the rewards of their work. The problem begins when comfort becomes the default direction for daily decisions, rather than a short pause between periods of productive effort. Growth speaks in a different voice. It asks for learning, discipline, patience, and sometimes the willingness to struggle with something that does not come easily. The rewards of growth rarely appear right away, which is one reason many people hesitate when this choice appears. Think about someone who decides to learn a new skill. At the beginning, the process can feel awkward and frustrating. Mistakes happen often, progress looks slow, and the person may feel uncomfortable dealing with something they do not yet understand. At that moment, comfort offers a tempting alternative. It suggests stepping away from the difficulty and returning to something easier. It quietly suggests that effort can always begin tomorrow, when conditions feel more convenient and confidence feels stronger. If that suggestion is accepted once or twice, the consequences may seem small. Yet when the same decision is repeated again and again, something important begins to change. The person slowly trains themselves to avoid the very experiences that would have helped their abilities grow. Growth develops when someone stays engaged with the challenge long enough to learn from it. The early discomfort slowly turns into understanding, and what once felt difficult begins to feel manageable. Over time, the person who repeatedly chooses growth begins noticing their capabilities increasing, skills improve, confidence expands, and opportunities that once seemed intimidating start looking achievable. None of this happens because growth suddenly became easy, but because the person chose to continue despite temporary discomfort. Comfort tends to keep someone exactly where they are. It protects the present moment, but often limits what becomes possible later. Growth asks more from the present moment, but it quietly expands what becomes possible in the future. Imagine two people starting at a similar point in life. Both have similar abilities and similar opportunities. One person chooses comfort whenever the decision appears, while the other repeatedly chooses the effort required to improve. In the beginning, their lives may look almost the same. The person choosing comfort enjoys the ease of the present, while the person choosing growth invests time and energy into learning and development. For a while, there may be little visible difference between them, but as the years pass, the results begin separating. The person who chose growth has built knowledge, experience, and capability that did not exist before. The challenges they once struggled with have become skills they can now handle with confidence. Meanwhile, the person who repeatedly chose comfort may find that their abilities have remained mostly unchanged. They might feel confused about why the distance between themselves and others has slowly grown. That separation was not created by a single dramatic moment. It was created by many small situations where someone chose either the ease of comfort or the effort required for growth. Each decision looked minor when it happened, yet together they formed a powerful pattern. Growth also builds confidence in a unique way. When someone repeatedly faces challenges and learns from them, they begin trusting their ability to deal with difficulty. They start believing that unfamiliar situations can be understood and handled with patience and effort. Comfort rarely provides that experience. It encourages someone to stay within familiar territory where little challenge exists. While that may feel safe in the present, it can quietly limit the confidence that comes from overcoming difficulty. There is an important truth hidden in this idea. Growth does not require perfection. A person does not need to succeed every time they attempt something difficult. What matters is the willingness to keep learning and improving through the process. Each time someone chooses growth, they gain experience that becomes valuable later. They learn what works, what does not work, and how to adjust when circumstances change. That knowledge slowly becomes an advantage that shapes future opportunities. The choice between comfort and growth appears many times throughout life. It shows up in small moments when someone must decide whether to learn something new, attempt something difficult, or stay within familiar limits. These moments often pass quietly, yet they carry enormous influence over the direction of a person's development. People who consistently choose growth may not see dramatic changes right away, but eventually they discover that their abilities have expanded far beyond what once seemed possible. Those who consistently choose comfort may enjoy the ease of the present, but later they sometimes realize that the future they hoped for never fully developed. The difference between those outcomes rarely begins with one decision. It begins with the repeated choice between comfort and growth, made quietly in the ordinary moments that shape the direction of a life. Another decision that quietly separates progress from regret is the choice a person makes about the standards they live by. Every person operates according to certain expectations, whether those expectations have been carefully chosen or simply absorbed from the environment around them. These standards influence how someone approaches their work, how they handle responsibility, and how seriously they treat the commitments they make. Standards act like an invisible line that determines what someone will accept from themselves. Some people place that line very low, expecting only minimal effort and average results. Others place that line much higher, expecting discipline, reliability, and steady improvement. Over time, those expectations begin shaping the quality of results that appear in a person's life. Someone who sets low standards may still work hard occasionally, but their effort often depends on their mood or the situation. If conditions are easy, they may perform well. If circumstances become difficult, their effort may quickly decline because their personal expectations do not demand anything greater. On the other hand, a person who lives by stronger standards usually approaches situations differently. Their effort does not depend entirely on convenience or emotion. Instead, their behavior is guided by the level of responsibility they have decided to maintain, regardless of the situation. Consider the person who decides that whatever task they are given will be completed carefully and fully. That person develops a habit of reliability and attention. When others begin noticing that habit, they naturally start trusting that person with greater responsibility. The opposite pattern also appears often. Someone may decide that doing the bare minimum is acceptable in most situations. They complete their responsibilities only enough to avoid criticism, and anything beyond that feels unnecessary. At first, this approach may seem efficient because it requires less effort. Yet over time, the results begin revealing the limits of that decision. When opportunities appear that require greater responsibility, people who have practiced minimal standards are often passed over. The reason is not that they lack ability, but that their past behavior has not shown the reliability others are looking for. Standards influence much more than professional situations. They also shape how someone manages their time, their habits, and their relationships. When a person decides that honesty, discipline, and consistency are non-negotiable parts of their character, those principles begin influencing decisions across every area of life. A person who maintains strong standards eventually becomes known for certain qualities. Others may say that this person can be trusted to finish what they start, prepare carefully, or remain dependable, even when situations become difficult. These reputations are not created through words, but through repeated actions that reflect the standards someone has chosen. Another person may have equal intelligence and ability, but operate with weaker expectations for themselves. They may allow promises to remain unfinished, accept careless work, or delay responsibilities until the last possible moment. Those habits may not appear disastrous at first, but over time they influence how others see their reliability. The world tends to respond to consistent behavior. When someone repeatedly demonstrates strong standards, people begin associating that person with trust and quality. Opportunities often follow people who have built that reputation because others feel confident relying on them. Standards influence how a person sees themselves. When someone consistently lives by disciplined behavior, they develop a sense of self-respect that strengthens their confidence. They know their actions match their intentions, and that alignment creates a strong base for future progress. Here is the other side of the coin. When someone repeatedly accepts lower expectations from themselves, a different internal experience may appear. They may start noticing that their actions do not match the goals they claim to value. Over time, that gap can weaken the confidence that normally comes from knowing one has done their best. One of the remarkable things about standards is that they are mostly voluntary. Circumstances may influence which opportunities appear, but each person ultimately decides the level of effort and responsibility they bring to those opportunities. No external rule can fully determine the personal standards someone chooses to maintain. This means two people placed in identical circumstances can produce very different results simply because their standards differ. One might approach the situation with discipline and preparation, while the other treats the same situation casually. The difference in outcomes often reflects the difference in expectations they set for themselves. Standards reinforce themselves over time. When someone consistently meets higher expectations, they begin attracting situations that require those qualities. Responsibility increases, trust expands, and new opportunities begin appearing. Lower standards can create the opposite effect. If someone repeatedly demonstrates carelessness or inconsistency, fewer opportunities may appear because others hesitate to rely on behavior that seems unpredictable. The key realization is that standards are not permanent conditions assigned at birth. They are decisions that can be raised at any time. Someone who once accepted minimal expectations can choose stronger ones beginning today. Raising personal standards does not require dramatic announcements. It simply requires behaving differently in the ordinary moments when decisions are made. The next task can be completed with greater care. The next responsibility can be handled with stronger discipline. The next promise can be fulfilled with greater reliability. When those actions are repeated consistently, they begin forming a new pattern of behavior. That pattern becomes visible to others, and eventually it becomes part of the reputation a person carries. Progress often follows people who quietly raise the expectations they place on themselves. Regret, on the other hand, often appears when someone realizes they were capable of more, but allowed lower standards to guide their actions for too long. The decision about what standards to live by may appear private and invisible at first, yet over time, that decision becomes clearly visible through the results it produces. The quality of a person's future often reflects the level of expectations they chose to maintain in the ordinary moments of their life. Another decision that quietly separates progress from regret is the choice between action and delay. This decision appears often throughout life, usually in moments that seem ordinary and easy to overlook. A person recognizes something that should be done, understands that completing the task could improve their situation, and then must decide whether to begin now or postpone the effort. Delay has a way of making itself look reasonable. It rarely appears and openly admits that it is avoidance or neglect. Instead, it usually comes with small explanations that sound perfectly logical at the time. A person might tell themselves they will start tomorrow, next week, or when things feel a little more favorable. At first, this choice seems harmless. Putting something off for a short time does not immediately change the direction of a life. But when delay becomes a habit instead of an occasional exception, something subtle begins happening in the background. Every time someone postpones something important, the mind becomes a little more comfortable with postponing things. What once felt like a temporary delay slowly turns into a familiar response to effort. Over time, the habit of waiting begins replacing the habit of acting. This pattern quietly affects the opportunities that appear in a person's life. Many opportunities do not stay open forever. They appear quietly, present a moment where action could begin and eventually move on if nothing happens. Think about someone who decides they want to improve their abilities in a certain field. The first step might be studying a subject, practicing a skill, or speaking with people who already have experience in that area. None of these steps are beyond the reach of an ordinary person. Yet that person might delay getting started. They may think they need more time before beginning, or that everything must be perfectly prepared before the first step can happen. Weeks pass, then months, and eventually the intention remains while the action never actually begins. Meanwhile, another person with the same interests may simply start. Their early attempts may be imperfect, and they may feel uncertain at times along the way. But their decision to act creates something important that delay never produces: experience. Experience is a powerful teacher. When someone begins taking action, they start learning things that cannot be understood through thinking alone. Mistakes reveal useful information. Successes reveal possibilities. And each step forward slowly improves their understanding. This process builds momentum. The person who acts gains confidence through experience, and that confidence encourages further action. Each step forward makes the next step easier because the person is no longer standing at the beginning. Delay interrupts this process before it can even start. Someone who repeatedly postpones action stays at the starting point, where uncertainty feels the strongest. Because no experience has been gained, the task continues looking harder than it may actually be. Momentum is one of the most valuable forces in personal progress. Once movement begins, it becomes easier to keep going. A person who takes steady action gradually develops a rhythm that allows them to accomplish more than they originally expected. And the habit of action makes effort visible too. When someone begins working toward a goal, other people start noticing what they are doing. That attention can lead to advice, encouragement, or opportunities that may never have appeared otherwise. Delay often prevents those connections from forming. When effort stays hidden inside plans and intentions, the world has very little chance to respond. Ideas remain private thoughts instead of actions that can influence circumstances. Another interesting thing about action is that it often clarifies direction. Many people hesitate because they believe they must see the entire path before starting. In reality, the path usually becomes clear only after the first steps are taken. Someone who acts begins discovering what works and what does not. They adjust their direction based on what they learn and gradually improve their efforts as experience builds. Without action, that discovery never happens. This is why delay can quietly take years from a person's life. It encourages the belief that everything must be perfectly prepared before beginning. Even though most progress comes from imperfect action followed by improvement. The difference between people who move forward and those who remain stuck is often surprisingly small. It is not always talent, intelligence, or resources that determine the outcome. Very often the difference is simply the willingness to begin while the opportunity still exists. Action does not guarantee immediate success, but it does guarantee movement. Movement creates experience, experience builds skill, and skill eventually produces results that would never have appeared without the first step. Delay produces the opposite effect. When someone repeatedly postpones important actions, the conditions that might have supported progress slowly disappear. Opportunities change, circumstances shift, and the moment that once existed eventually passes. The encouraging part of this idea is that the habit of action can be built just like any other habit. A person can start by deciding that when something useful needs to be done, the first step will be taken as soon as it reasonably can be. That choice begins training the mind to respond differently to opportunity. Instead of looking for reasons to wait, the person begins looking for the simplest way to begin. Even a small action can create the movement needed to start momentum. Over time, this habit becomes part of a person's character. Others begin seeing them as someone who takes initiative and follows through on their intentions. Opportunities often move toward people who show that kind of reliability. The difference between progress and regret often appears in those quiet moments when someone must decide whether to begin now or postpone the effort. The person who repeatedly chooses action slowly builds a life filled with movement and experience. The one who repeatedly chooses delay may eventually realize that the opportunities they once planned to pursue have quietly moved out of reach. In many cases, the distance between those two outcomes was created by a single decision, repeated again and again. The choice to act or the choice to wait. As the years pass, the choices a person makes start forming a pattern that becomes easier to see. At first, each decision may seem separate from the others, like individual moments that do not carry much long-term importance. But when those decisions are viewed together over time, they begin revealing the direction a life has quietly taken. Someone who consistently chooses learning, responsibility, and effort slowly creates a future that reflects those priorities. Skills improve, understanding grows, and the ability to handle larger opportunities begins developing naturally. Progress does not appear all at once, but it grows steadily as the results of those choices add up. Another person may make different choices during the same period of time. They might avoid preparation when effort feels inconvenient, postpone actions that require discipline, or accept circumstances without trying to influence them. Those decisions also accumulate, shaping a future that reflects the direction those habits have created. Eventually, the distance between these paths becomes obvious. The person who invested in growth and responsibility begins experiencing opportunities that did not exist before. Their preparation allows them to recognize possibilities and respond to them with confidence. The other person may begin wondering why life unfolded differently than they once expected. They may remember ideas they planned to pursue, skills they once hoped to learn, or responsibilities they believed they would eventually accept. Yet those intentions remained plans instead of actions, and time continued moving forward. Regret rarely arrives all at once. Most of the time, it develops slowly as someone begins noticing the opportunities that once existed, but were never fully pursued. They may realize that certain doors were open at one time, but gradually closed because the necessary preparation or effort never happened. What makes this realization difficult is that those opportunities often looked ordinary when they first appeared. They did not look like major turning points that would shape the direction of a life. They simply looked like chances to begin learning, improving, or contributing in some useful way. The person who chose to act during those moments may not have recognized their importance either. They simply decided to take responsibility for the opportunity in front of them and do something useful with it. Over time, those decisions built experience, reputation, and ability that slowly expanded their possibilities. The important lesson is that the future is rarely created by a single extraordinary moment. It is built through the steady accumulation of decisions that either move someone forward or leave them standing in the same place. Each decision adds something to the direction that eventually becomes clear years later. Someone who understands this connection gains something valuable: the ability to influence tomorrow through the decisions made today. No one can rewrite the past, but every person can influence what happens next by changing the pattern of choices guiding their behavior. This realization can actually be encouraging. Even if someone recognizes that past decisions did not produce the results they hoped for, the future has not been permanently decided. The same principle that allowed past choices to shape the present can also allow new choices to shape what comes next. If repeated delay once created stagnation, repeated action can begin creating progress. If low standards once limited results, stronger standards can begin improving them. If comfort once guided daily decisions, choosing growth can begin expanding what becomes possible. The future is not a mystery assigned randomly. It is a direction that grows from the habits and choices a person repeats consistently. When those choices encourage learning, effort, and responsibility, the results slowly begin reflecting that commitment. One of the most powerful ideas someone can understand is that tomorrow is already being built by the decisions made today, the habits practiced this week, the effort invested this month, and the responsibilities accepted this year all contribute to the kind of future that will eventually appear. Regret often comes from realizing that those choices were handled carelessly or delayed for too long. Progress comes from recognizing that each decision carries influence and choosing actions that move life in a constructive direction. Once someone becomes aware of this relationship, everyday decisions begin carrying more meaning. Time becomes more valuable because it is understood as the material used to build the future. Effort becomes more important because it shapes the abilities that will define tomorrow's opportunities. The path ahead is rarely determined by chance alone. It is shaped through the accumulation of decisions that either strengthen a person's abilities or leave them unchanged. Those decisions appear quietly in the ordinary moments of each day. Every choice moves a person slightly closer to the life they want to build or slightly farther away from it. The movement may be small at first and almost invisible while it is happening. But over the years, those small movements become the difference between progress that was built intentionally and regret that developed through inaction. Understanding this truth gives every person a powerful advantage. It means the future is not completely outside their influence. It means today's choices can begin shaping tomorrow's possibilities. The decisions that separate progress from regret are rarely dramatic. They are the quiet choices made in ordinary moments, repeated often enough to guide the direction of a life. When those choices begin pointing toward growth, responsibility, and consistent action, the future gradually begins reflecting the wisdom of those decisions. It is easy for a person to sit and think about what they want their life to become, and in doing so, feel as though they have already taken a meaningful step forward. The mind has a remarkable ability to simulate progress, to create the feeling of movement without requiring any real movement at all. A person can spend hours considering plans, imagining outcomes, and organizing ideas, and at the end of that time, feel as though something has been accomplished, even though nothing in their actual life has changed. Now let me tell you why this is dangerous. The feeling of progress can satisfy the desire for progress. When that happens, the urgency to act begins to fade, and the person becomes comfortable with the idea of change instead of committed to the process of change. Thinking becomes a substitute for doing, and over time, that substitution becomes a habit that is difficult to recognize because it feels productive while producing nothing. Somebody says they're working on something, but really what they've been doing is thinking about it, talking about it, or planning it. Now, there is value in thinking, and there is value in planning, but only when those things lead to action. If thinking does not lead to action, then it is not progress. It is postponement dressed in a more respectable form. It allows them to stay in motion mentally while remaining still physically. It is entirely possible for someone to become very busy in their mind while their life remains unchanged. They can analyze their situation, break it down, discuss it, and revisit it again and again, all while the same conditions persist. The mind becomes active, but the results remain inactive, and this creates a gap that often goes unnoticed because the activity feels real. Think about how often people imagine a better future. They picture themselves in a different position, with different habits, different results, and a different sense of confidence. That picture can be vivid, and it can be motivating. But if that picture is not followed by action, it slowly becomes a place of escape rather than a blueprint for change. Instead of using the image to guide their behavior, they begin to visit it as a way to feel better about not changing. There is a difference between using imagination as a tool and using it as a replacement. When you use it as a tool, it points you toward what needs to be done next. When you use it as a replacement, it allows you to experience the reward without paying the price. Over time, that habit weakens the connection between your desire and your discipline, and you begin to expect results without the necessary effort. The gap between what you think about and what you actually do is where most of the problem exists. It is not that you do not know what you want, and it is not that you are incapable of improvement. Most of the time, you have already identified what needs to change. Your future. They picture themselves in a different position, with different habits, different results, and a different sense of confidence. That picture can be vivid, and it can be motivating. But if that picture is not followed by action, it slowly becomes a place of escape rather than a blueprint for change. Instead of using the image to guide their behavior, they begin to visit it as a way to feel better about not changing. There is a difference between using imagination as a tool and using it as a replacement. When you use it as a tool, it points you toward what needs to be done next. When you use it as a replacement, it allows you to experience the reward without paying the price. Over time, that habit weakens the connection between your desire and your discipline, and you begin to expect results without the necessary effort. The gap between what you think about and what you actually do is where most of the problem exists. It is not that you do not know what you want, and it is not that you are incapable of improvement. Most of the time, you have already identified what needs to change, and you have even spent time considering how to change it. The issue is that your thinking does not translate into doing, and without that translation, nothing moves forward. You might spend days thinking about getting in better shape, organizing your finances, learning a new skill, or improving your discipline. You may gather information, create plans, and even set intentions. But until you take a single action, your situation remains exactly as it was before. The calendar does not respond to intentions, and circumstances do not shift because of thoughts alone. Action is the only thing that begins the process of change. There is a tendency to wait for the perfect moment to act, as though clarity must be complete before you begin. But clarity often comes from action, not before it. You may believe you need to have everything figured out before you start, when in reality, it is the act of starting that begins to reveal what needs to be adjusted. Waiting for certainty becomes another form of delay, and that delay keeps your life in the same place. If you want to understand why your life has not changed, you have to look closely at the difference between what you have been thinking and what you have been doing. The answer is not hidden, and it is not complicated, but it is often uncomfortable to acknowledge. It requires you to admit that your intention has not been matched with action, and without that match, no progress can occur. Nothing changes until you replace intention with action. A thought may point the way, and a plan may organize the steps, but neither of those moves you forward until you put them into practice. The shift happens the moment you stop preparing to change and begin to change, even in the smallest way. That is when the process truly begins, and that is when your life starts to move in a new direction. And once that action begins, it is what you do repeatedly that starts to shape your life. It is not the rare burst of effort that defines your direction, but the ordinary actions you carry out day after day. When those actions remain the same, your results remain the same. And over time, that repetition builds a pattern that becomes difficult to break, not because it is impossible, but because it is familiar. Familiarity has a quiet kind of power. It does not demand attention, and it does not announce itself as a problem, but it steadily keeps you within the boundaries you have grown used to. Even when those boundaries are limiting, they feel safe because they are known. You know what to expect. You know how things usually go, and that predictability can create a sense of comfort, even when it comes at the cost of progress. Many people believe that recognizing a problem is enough to begin solving it. You can clearly see what is not working, and you can even explain why it is not working. But recognition alone does not change behavior. You may understand that your habits are holding you back, and yet continue to follow those same habits because understanding and action are not the same thing. Awareness does not automatically lead to adjustment. There is a tendency to return to what feels natural, even when what feels natural is no longer serving a useful purpose. You might decide to change your routine, to improve your discipline, or to approach your day differently, but when discomfort appears, you drift back to what you know. That return is not always a conscious decision, and in many cases, it happens quietly, through small choices that seem insignificant in the moment, but are powerful in their repetition. A routine is built from those small choices, and once it is established, it begins to operate with very little effort. You do not have to think about it, because it has become automatic. That can be useful when the routine is productive, but when the routine is unproductive, it creates a cycle that continues without much resistance. You may want different results, but your routine continues to produce the same outcomes because it has not been changed. Comfort often disguises itself as stability. You might say that things are steady, that you are maintaining, or that you are simply being consistent. But there is a difference between maintaining progress and maintaining a position that is not improving. Stability can be valuable when it supports growth, but when it prevents growth, it becomes another form of being stuck, even if it does not feel that way at first. It is important to understand that repetition is neutral. It does not favor improvement or decline. It simply reinforces whatever you repeat. If you repeat habits that lead to growth, then growth becomes more likely. If you repeat habits that lead to stagnation, then stagnation becomes more likely. The pattern itself is not the problem. The content of the pattern is what determines the result. You may wonder why your situation has not changed, while continuing to follow the same daily structure that created your current situation. You wake up at the same time, approach your day in the same way, respond to challenges in the same manner, and end your day with the same habits. Over time, that consistency produces a predictable outcome, and that outcome reflects the pattern that created it. Breaking that pattern requires more than intention, and it requires more than temporary effort. It requires a deliberate interruption of what has become automatic, and that interruption must be repeated until a new pattern begins to take its place. At first, that will feel unnatural because it goes against what you are used to. But over time, the new behavior can become just as familiar as the old one once was. The challenge is not only in identifying what needs to change, but in consistently choosing something different when the opportunity presents itself. You may know that you should respond differently, act differently, or structure your time differently. But in the moment, you often default to what is easiest, and what is easiest is usually what is already familiar. That is why change requires attention, especially in the beginning, because without attention, the old pattern continues. If you repeat the same actions, the same results will follow. This is not a mystery, and it is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of consistency. You do not arrive at a result by accident. You arrive there through repetition. When that repetition is examined honestly, it often becomes clear why things have remained the same. To create a different result, you must establish a different pattern. That does not happen all at once, and it does not require perfection. But it does require a willingness to interrupt what has become comfortable and replace it with something more effective. When that begins to happen, even in small ways, the direction of your life can begin to shift because the pattern that produces your results has begun to change. But changing the pattern is only part of it, because every form of progress has a price attached to it, whether you choose to acknowledge that price or not. Improvement is never free, and it never arrives without some form of exchange. It asks for your time, it asks for your effort, and it often asks for discomfort. And the moment those demands become real, you may begin to hesitate, not because you do not want the result, but because you do not want to continue paying the cost required to reach it. It is very common to admire a result while quietly resisting the process that created it. You may look at someone who has achieved a certain level of success and say that you want something similar, but what you are often drawn to is the outcome, not the effort behind it. The outcome appears attractive, while the process appears demanding, and that difference creates a conflict between what you say you want and what you are willing to do. In the beginning, the cost does not always feel significant. You may start with enthusiasm, willing to invest your time and energy because the goal is still fresh and your motivation is still strong. But as time passes and as the effort continues, the cost becomes more noticeable. The early excitement fades, and what remains is the requirement to keep going, even when it is no longer convenient or enjoyable. This is where many people begin to withdraw. Not all at once and not in a dramatic way, but gradually, through small decisions that reduce their level of effort. You might skip a day, delay something, or lower your standards just slightly, and each of those choices makes the cost a little easier to avoid in the moment. But avoiding the cost also means avoiding the result, even if that connection is not immediately obvious. There is a natural tendency to choose comfort over challenge, especially when the challenge does not produce immediate rewards. You might work hard for a period of time and see very little change, and in that absence of visible progress, it becomes easier to question whether the effort is worth it. The discomfort feels real, while the result still feels distant, and in that situation, comfort becomes the more appealing option. Avoiding discomfort may feel like a relief, but it comes with its own consequence. When you consistently choose what is easier in the moment, you are also choosing to remain where you are. The cost of improvement does not disappear. It simply gets replaced by the cost of staying the same. And over time, that cost can become even greater because it includes missed opportunities, delayed progress, and the growing awareness that things are not moving forward. Your results are closely tied to what you are willing to deal with on a regular basis. If you are willing to deal with effort, discipline, and temporary discomfort, then you open the door to growth. If you are not willing to deal with those things, then you limit what is possible, not because you lack ability, but because you are unwilling to meet the requirements that improvement demands. It is important to understand that the process is not designed to be easy, and it is not meant to be avoided. The difficulty is part of what creates the result, and removing that difficulty removes the pathway to progress. You cannot expect to build strength without resistance, and you cannot expect to create change without effort. The process and the result are connected, and one cannot exist without the other. See, most people try to negotiate with the process, looking for ways to reduce the effort while still expecting the same outcome. You might look for a shortcut, trying to do less while hoping for more, but that approach rarely leads to meaningful progress. The process has its own requirements, and those requirements do not adjust themselves to match your preference for comfort. If you want to understand why your life has not changed, you must look at what you have been unwilling to do consistently, not in theory and not in intention, but in practice. The answer is often found in the effort you avoided, the discipline you did not maintain, and the discomfort you did not accept long enough to produce a result. Progress belongs to those who continue to pay the price, even after the excitement fades and the effort becomes routine. It is not the person who starts with the most enthusiasm who moves ahead, but the one who remains willing to do what is required, day after day, whether they feel like it or not. That willingness is what separates those who change from those who remain where they are. Because in the end, your result reflects the price you were willing to pay to achieve it. But even that willingness is shaped by something deeper, because your situation is not defined only by what happens to you, but by how you explain what happens to you. You can face similar circumstances as someone else and arrive at a very different outcome, not because the conditions are entirely different, but because your interpretation of those conditions leads you in a different direction. The story you tell yourself becomes the filter through which you see your options, and that filter influences what you choose to do next. It is common to construct explanations for why things are not working, and in many cases, those explanations are based on real factors. There may be limitations, obstacles, and challenges that are difficult to ignore, and acknowledging those factors can be useful. However, there's a point where explanation can quietly turn into justification, and when that happens, the explanation no longer helps you move forward. It helps you remain where you are. You might say that your progress is limited by your background, your circumstances, your responsibilities, or your past experiences. While those factors may have an influence, the way you frame them determines whether they become obstacles that can be worked around or barriers that feel impossible to overcome. The difference is not always in the situation itself, but in the meaning you assign to it. When you focus primarily on what you cannot control, you begin to overlook what you can control. Your attention shifts toward limitation rather than possibility, and that shift reduces your willingness to act. If the situation is seen as fixed, then action feels unnecessary, and over time, that belief becomes self-reinforcing. You do less, see fewer results, and use that lack of results as further evidence that your situation cannot change. Excuses rarely appear in an obvious form. They are often presented as reasonable explanations, and they can sound convincing even to you. You might say you are waiting for a better time, or that you need to resolve certain issues before you can begin, and those statements can seem practical. However, when those explanations consistently delay action, they serve the same purpose as an excuse, regardless of how they are presented. The way you describe your situation influences how you feel about it, and how you feel about it influences what you do. If you describe your circumstances as limiting and unchangeable, you are less likely to take initiative. If you describe those same circumstances as difficult but manageable, you are more likely to look for ways to move forward. The language you use internally becomes a guide for your behavior, whether you are aware of it or not. Changing the story does not mean ignoring reality, and it does not mean pretending that challenges do not exist. It means choosing to interpret those challenges in a way that allows for action instead of preventing it. You can acknowledge difficulty while still deciding to act, and that decision changes the role that the difficulty plays. It becomes something to work through rather than something to stop because of. Most people try to protect their current position by reinforcing the story that supports it. If you have been in the same place for a long time, you may begin to explain why that position makes sense, even if you are not satisfied with it. That explanation can create a sense of acceptance, but it can also reduce your motivation to change, because the situation has been framed as reasonable rather than temporary. If you want to move forward, you must examine the explanations you have been using and ask whether those explanations are leading to action or preventing it. The goal is not to eliminate explanation altogether, but to ensure that it does not become a barrier to progress. An explanation should clarify the situation, not define the limit of what is possible. The moment you begin to change the way you interpret your circumstances, your options begin to change as well. You may see opportunities that were previously overlooked, and you may begin to take steps that you had been avoiding. The situation itself may not have changed yet, but your approach to it has, and that shift is often the beginning of real movement. The story you tell yourself is either a tool for progress or a reason for delay. It can open the door to action, or it can quietly keep that door closed. Understanding this allows you to take responsibility not only for what you do, but for how you think about what you are doing. And that responsibility is what creates the possibility for change. And this is where you may begin to struggle, because it is not uncommon to take action for a period of time and then feel discouraged when the results do not appear as quickly as you expected. You begin with effort, you make adjustments, and for a while, you move in a different direction. But when the outcome does not immediately reflect that effort, you start to question whether it is working at all. That question, if left unanswered by patience, often leads to stopping. And when you stop, the process that could have created change is interrupted before it has had the chance to produce anything meaningful. Results do not always appear at the same pace as your effort. There is often a delay between what you do and what you see, and during that delay, it can feel as though nothing is happening. You might be making better choices, improving your habits, and putting in consistent work. But because the visible outcome has not yet caught up, it can seem as though your actions are not effective. This is where you may begin to lose confidence in the process. The expectation of quick results can create a false standard that no real process can meet. When you expect immediate change, you measure your progress against a timeline that does not match reality. When that expectation is not met, you may interpret the lack of immediate results as a sign that the effort is not worthwhile, rather than understanding that the process simply requires more time. This misunderstanding causes you to abandon what could have worked if you had continued. Inconsistency is another factor that quietly resets your progress. You might take action for a few days or even a few weeks, and then stop, only to start again later. Each time you stop, you interrupt the momentum you had begun to build. And when you return, it often feels as though you are starting over. The effort is not wasted, but the lack of continuity prevents it from compounding into something greater. Small actions only produce meaningful results when you repeat them over time. A single effort, no matter how strong, has limited impact if it is not followed by continued effort. It is the repetition of those actions that creates change, because repetition allows improvement to accumulate. Without that accumulation, your progress remains minimal, and you may conclude that the action itself is ineffective, when in reality it simply has not been sustained long enough. And what do most people do? You stop once the initial discomfort has been felt. You begin, encounter resistance, and then decide that it is not worth continuing, because the experience is more difficult than you anticipated. What you may not realize is that the early stage of any change often feels the most challenging, because it requires breaking away from what is familiar. If you continue, that difficulty can decrease as the new behavior becomes more natural. But if you stop too soon, you never reach that point. Time plays a critical role in every form of improvement. It is not enough to act. You must also allow time for the results of that action to develop. Just as it takes time for anything to grow, it takes time for effort to produce visible change. When you cut that process short, you are not giving your actions the opportunity to take effect. And as a result, you remain in the same place, not because the action was ineffective, but because it was not sustained. If you want to understand why your life has not changed, you must consider not only what you have done, but how long you have continued doing it. It is possible to take the right actions and still see little change if those actions are not maintained long enough. The process requires both effort and duration, and removing either one limits the result. Consistency is what allows small actions to become significant over time. It is not dramatic, and it does not always feel rewarding in the moment, but it is reliable. When you commit to repeating the right actions day after day, even when progress is not immediately visible, you create the conditions necessary for change to occur. The accumulation of those actions eventually reaches a point where the results begin to show, often in a way that seems sudden, even though it was built gradually. So remember, it is not only about starting, it is about staying. You may begin with the best intentions and the right plan, but if you do not continue, the outcome will not follow. Those who see real change are not always the most talented or the most motivated at the beginning, but they are often the ones who remain consistent long enough for their efforts to take effect. That consistency, maintained over time, is what finally transforms your action into result.
I begin each day with discipline, clear purpose, integrity, and gratitude. I focus only on what I can influence, and I take deliberate action daily. I reflect, journal, and learn from each day so I improve tomorrow. I learn and teach every day, sharpening my judgment and understanding. I show up intentionally as a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. I take responsibility for the impact of my decisions on others. I train my body daily with discipline and respect for long-term health. I am becoming a capable managing director who understands business. I am building long-term financial stability through competence and integrity. act with gratitude, humility, and a commitment to give back. I am becoming someone who does high-intensity interval training every single week. I take time to recognize what I am grateful for every day. I visualize success every day so I know what I'm moving towards. I begin each day with discipline, clear purpose, integrity, and gratitude. I focus only on what I can influence, and I take deliberate action daily. I reflect, journal, and learn from each day so I improve tomorrow. I learn and teach every day, sharpening my judgment and understanding. I show up intentionally as a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. I take responsibility for the impact of my decisions on others. I train my body daily with discipline and respect for long-term health. I am becoming a capable managing director who understands business. I am building long-term financial stability through competence and integrity. I act with gratitude, humility, and a commitment to give back. I am becoming someone who does high-intensity interval training every single week. I take time to recognize what I am grateful for every day. I visualize success every day so I know what I'm moving towards. I begin each day with discipline, clear purpose, integrity, and gratitude. I focus only on what I can influence, and I take deliberate action daily. I reflect, journal, and learn from each day so I improve tomorrow. I learn and teach every day, sharpening my judgment and understanding. I show up intentionally as a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. I take responsibility for the impact of my decisions on others. I train my body daily with discipline and respect for long-term health. I am becoming a capable managing director who understands business. I am building long-term financial stability through competence and integrity. gratitude, humility, and a commitment to give back. I am becoming someone who does high-intensity interval training every single week. I take time to recognize what I am grateful for every day. I visualize success every day so I know what I'm moving towards. I begin each day with discipline, clear purpose, integrity, and gratitude. I focus only on what I can influence, and I take deliberate action daily. I reflect, journal, and learn from each day so I improve tomorrow. I learn and teach every day, sharpening my judgment and understanding. I show up intentionally as a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. I take responsibility for the impact of my decisions on others. I train my body daily with discipline and respect for long-term health. I am becoming a capable managing director who understands business. I am building long-term financial stability through competence and integrity. I act with gratitude, humility, and a commitment to give back. I am becoming someone who does high-intensity interval training every single week. I take time to recognize what I am grateful for every day. I visualize success every day so I know what I'm moving towards. I begin each day with discipline, clear purpose, integrity, and gratitude. I focus only on what I can influence, and I take deliberate action daily. I reflect, journal, and learn from each day so I improve tomorrow. I learn and teach every day, sharpening my judgment and understanding. I show up intentionally as a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. I take responsibility for the impact of my decisions on others. I train my body daily with discipline and respect for long-term health. I am becoming a capable managing director who understands business. I am building long-term financial stability through competence and integrity. act with gratitude, humility, and a commitment to give back. I am becoming someone who does high-intensity interval training every single week. I take time to recognize what I am grateful for every day. I visualize success every day so I know what I'm moving towards. I begin each day with discipline, clear purpose, integrity, and gratitude. I focus only on what I can influence, and I take deliberate action daily. I reflect, journal, and learn from each day so I improve tomorrow. I learn and teach every day, sharpening my judgment and understanding. I show up intentionally as a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. I take responsibility for the impact of my decisions on others. I train my body daily with discipline and respect for long-term health. I am becoming a capable managing director who understands business. I am building long-term financial stability through competence and integrity. I act with gratitude, humility, and a commitment to give back. I am becoming someone who does high-intensity interval training every single week. I take time to recognize what I am grateful for every day. I visualize success every day
Day 103.